As the song says, it's the final countdown. And Barry, that's kind of it, because I was just spending some time this morning packing my bag to come up to the big city of Gloucester, Virginia, and spend a weekend with you guys and House of David.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I. I'm just, I sure would like to know what I'm speaking on in Shabbat. So if anybody out there has any ideas, please text me and let me know.
Well, the Torah portion is Kitetse, so have at it. I mean, there could be a lot of interesting things in there.
Yeah.
Building a parapet around your house, not stealing bird eggs unnecessarily, and if your ox is in the ditch, pray for help.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to it. House of David is celebrating 20 years of existence. It has been a long and interesting ride thus far. And Mike, I pause and think, what if the Messiah tarries for another 20 years?
Yeah.
Number one, I cannot imagine what world societies would look like, what technology would take us to, what the incompetent hands of man might strive to implement in that period of time. I shake my head. My grandchildren will be approaching the age of my children now.
Yeah.
So in 20 years, I will be, how old will I be? About 80.
Yeah.
How much fire will I have left?
Well, that's when Moshe started. So, that's not bad. I'm thinking that if you invite me back in 20 years, I'll just send my hologram up there and maybe, have a little bit of artificial intelligence with it, which might be better sometimes than what I got. But, we'll see where that goes.
Well, we'll enjoy what you have while you got it.
Guys. Yeah, you guys have. It's been a great ride. I've been honored to be a part of some of that. So looking forward to, of course, being up there with Sam and Joyce and all of those guys. That it's kind of it's kind of another family for me. So I'm planning on coming up and Sundays sharing in some of that food. So I expect some good desserts here.
Well, Laura's been working on food coordination. A little of this, a little of that, and we'll see how it all turns out. Normally, we're not hungry when we leave.
No.
For being with one another.
No.
I got a lady. It's excellent at banana pudding. I'll see if I can talk her into that.
Yeah, my wife made some the other day, and I shared it with a friend of mine. He immediately texted me for the recipe and was sending it to his kids and everything. But Barry, I want you to understand that on Friday when we play golf, I want you to leave the eggs and the birds alone and watch those boundaries around the bunkers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta practice Torah while we're out there on the golf course.
Yeah, that means counting fair.
Usually. All right, let's go back a Torah portion. This is something that I taught this past Shabbat on the word tamim, various other things at Life Assembly, but I really didn't go into it. I just read the verse and did a very quick commentary out of Deuteronomy chapter 16. And the last couple of verses, it says, "You are not to plant any sort of etz or tree as a sacred pole beside the altar of Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh your Elohim, that you will make for yourself, Likewise, do not set up a standing stone. Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh your Elohim hates such things." And I talked about when we go to Israel, we go up to the Harabite, the Temple Mount, and it's disturbing to us to look at the the Arab women that are yelling at you for being there and not being a Muslim. It's disturbing to see the trash. It's
Yes.
disturbing to see young Arab boys that are playing soccer, literally right where the temple would have been. But here's the thing. You go up there and there are trees.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've ever, this is real. I knew that there was a verse that talked about don't plant trees, but I never really thought about it, about the desecration of the Temple Mount today is not just those who are occupying it, not just those who are keeping you from praying there, from sounding a shofar. Rav Yehuda Glick was detained by the police the other day on the Temple Mount because on his app he had the sound of a shofar. Those are abominations to me. But the trees, the scripture talks about the trees are an abomination to him. How much time have you really thought about that?
I remember being on the Temple Mount. That would have been in 2015 and then again in 2018. I remember seeing the trees. I remember the trash. I remember the soccer. I remember the desecration. For all of the promotion of this is such a holy site for Islam. I remember looking into the courtyard of one of their buildings, and it was quite littered with their liturgy books.
Yeah.
You go into one of the areas around the tunnel area. There was a place where rabbis are in there, they're studying, and their books are held in great esteem and honor. I was shocked. Their books are just thrown and casually, it looks like somebody, kids went in there and had a church hymnal battle, something other.
You've never been a part of one of those.
No. I remember looking around and saying, how is this place set apart by anybody? But I do remember the trees. And as you say that, Mike, I'm thinking that a Sadiq, a man who was of high levels of righteousness. Abraham was a Sadiq. Isaac or Yitzhak, Yaakov they were all Sadiqs. The greatest of Sadiqs, Judaism says, was Moshe. Incredible Sadiq, but the greatest of all Sadiqs is Yeshua, whose righteousness is able, and they talk, the scripture talks about a Sadiq having the ability to bless. People would come, even now, they come and looking for a man of righteousness to lay hands on them and bless them. And while we would think, well, that's just a unique trait to Judaism, people for generations have traveled from one revival to the other because, Oral Roberts or whoever was there, and they wanted them to lay hands on it for healing or some kind of deliverance or blessing or favor. Our tradition is to lay hands on people to anoint them, to commission them into ministry. So there is that principle. So does Yah not want righteous men in his court? Obviously he does, but not to the promotion of the man instead of the exaltation of Yah. To me, what this is saying is, don't compete with me. Honor me, exalt me, but don't compete with me in my own house. We wouldn't do that, I don't think, would we?
Yeah. Oh, no, never. It's amazing to me these days when I talk to people and talk about being in ministry. It's amazing to me how many people bring up Joel Osteen and how many people don't like him, but how many people watch him. that people they're looking for something, but it's like, if you bring up ministry, all of a sudden their attention goes to this guy. I don't know what's that guy's name in Texas. The guy that's got the multi-million dollars and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, let's dig out of that hole. But I want to go to something here. This past Shabbat, okay, I mentioned this verse after the service was over. I have a young man, young in my opinion, who is him and his family have been coming to Life Assembly from the beginning. Actually, he is kind of really become a part in the last few months. And he said to me, he said, I want to go back and ask you something about this, or talk to you about this verse about the trees on the Temple Mount. Now, he came out of a Baptist church, denominations. He says, when you walk into a church and on the platform or the stage, there's lights and all the decorations. And I was actually in a church in Sparks, Georgia years ago that had a disco ball. There's strobe lights, all these things, these extremely high tech sound systems and all of the, all the stuff. And I know, you're a musician that is, you want it to be perfect. I respect that. But what he said is, can that not become trees on the altar, trees next to the altar to take our attention away? So personalities, egos, lights, cameras, action, can those not take away our focus from the one entity that should be on our mind at that time?
I have to agree with that in large part. I have some personal pet peeves that vacillate from one end to the other. I don't care to sit and listen to someone say, well, I haven't practiced and this is just something other that I'm going to try to do. Y'all pray for me.
Yeah. Flippant.
I remember those days. It's vacillated now over to the other extreme of performance-oriented presentations, personality-driven worship. When we step on a platform, stand in front of an audience, there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one is that our role as leaders in worship or in presenting the word, you are a servant. The role of ministry is servanthood.
Yeah.
It's not about the promotion of yourself. Now, if the light is on you, don't let it go to your head, because it's only on you so that those who are seated before you can see you enough to follow you and understand what you're trying to communicate. It's only an aid in communication. It's not an illumination of great power and charisma. It's hard. The human mind doesn't interpret it that way. The moment you put somebody in the spotlight, they know that they're isolated. They know that they're illuminated and pushed out front. The human mind says, I need to perform. Somebody's expecting something of me. And that still runs in my head. I've got to go to Shabbat and teach and so forth because it's expected of me. It's my responsibility. It's my calling. It's my duty. It's my assignment. But in all of that characterization, Mike, I cannot allow it to be about me. I am there to serve my people, to give them the word, and to serve my Messiah as being his mouthpiece. Putting an instrument in your hands or being seated before an instrument takes it up a notch. If you have an ability to cause someone to step into an emotional connecting place, contemplate with the words of a song, if you're able to orchestrate a mood or a setting of the spirit, we think about the prophet. It says, bring me a minstrel and I will prophesy. So music aids in engaging the spirit to
Oh,
some
sure.
level. It is not a cure-all. You can't come into a room where you've been arguing with your spouse on the way to the room, or angry at the world, or filled with news media diatribes, and ready to pontificate your positions, and then suddenly be caught up into the realm of the spirit because someone sings a certain song. And just because it worked last week doesn't mean you repeat the same song this week expecting the same results. That's mechanics.
Yeah.
Now we become something different. All that said, all that said, again, the role is that of servanthood. That's what Yeshua said. I did not come to be exalted, I came to serve. And the one I am exalting is my Father.
Mm-hmm.
The best way I know to put that is that whatever you're doing in a congregational setting, or even in your privacy of worship at home, wherever you may be, you have an audience of one. So if I'm on, at House of David, we intentionally only raised up the platform about 4 or 5 inches. It's just enough to get me high enough on the floor that people can actually see me. Gives me just a little bit of elevation so they can see who's leading the worship. That's all it is. I didn't want a stage. I wanted, it's only about so high, intentionally so.
And when you're teaching, you're not standing up there, by the way.
No, I'm on the floor with everybody else.
Yeah.
So the audience that we have is one in the heavens. We're all in this together. It's a moment of worship where everybody is focused on the same one. And I've often prayed, Father, what songs do you want to hear today?
Yeah.
It's not what I want to play, what I think, how the flow should. Tell me of what we're prepared and capable of playing for you. What is it that you want to hear? And in response, I want to imagine that the Father is patting his foot and nodding his head. Thank you. That's the song I wanted to hear.
So if I go to you and say, hey, I would really like to hear this song. You've got a song that I dearly love. It's the intro that I use on Hebrew Nation Radio, O Jerusalem. And a lot of times when I'm there, you will do that song. But if I go to you and say, Barry, I just really want to hear this song, that's really me putting a tree. That's me trying to plant my own tree, because it's about me putting my desires instead of saying, Father, what do you want to hear? Now, I want to go back to a couple of things. You're using some words here. And, because of my background in air traffic control, time spent with Brad Scott, words mean things. The word platform is opposed to stage. The word congregation is opposed to audience. Yes, we have an audience of one. Our audience is the one in the heavenly realm, the congregation. The things that happen there when you turn the lights on, people change in spotlights. That's why you see Hollywood stars that go crazy, music stars go crazy after they become famous, because man was not designed for spotlights. I remember an acquaintance many years ago that was part of a professional, a pretty famous music group for some time, and they were backup singers, and there was the numerous camera angles. There was the people on the cameras all the time going all over the place, and catch this person, and they would literally instruct the people in how to raise their hands, of how to take that worship pose on the platform. That's wrong. The spotlight. You've taught to you've been on a stage with hundreds of people in front of you, and you got those lights on. You can't see anything. You can't see anybody. If you know the person that's on the platform, you can't see. You become disconnected. I remember being in I won't say where, but I remember being at a certain place, and the lights were so bright that I looked out, and it was as if I was teaching in the cosmos. I mean, it was like there is total darkness. I can't stand that. I got in trouble one time at a conference I was asked to speak at, and they had this stage that was like 5 or 6 feet tall. Okay, from the floor, I'm looking at the floor of it behind me, and had a time of music, of worship, and everything. And I looked at the person that was in charge, and I said, "Are we videotaping?" They said, "No, no, we're not video. We're audio, but no video." I said, "Great. Could I get a music stand down here on the floor?" And they said, "Well, yeah." I said, "Good." So I got this music stand down there, and I started, and I was the first speaker. So, and I said, "I just can't stand being up there." I said, "I don't want to raise myself up above you people, you know." And I kind of uh, ran with that for a moment, and I looked at some of the specifically the leader that was there, and they were not real happy with me because after that moment, I had set the standard. And
So,
there were people that didn't like that standard. So,
some of them wanted to stand on the stage.
yeah, they want to be on the stage. That the stage is a place of ego. If you have an ego, you want to be on the platform. You want to be above everyone. You want to be in that spotlight where everybody can see you. That's the concept of planting trees. You mentioned right before we came on, we discussed this subject just briefly yesterday on the phone, that men are likened to trees, and you were just kind of offhanded. You said, "Yeah, the trees are about to change." See, that's why you don't plant a tree there, because trees change, and trees will attract your attention. Trees will distract your attention. We're coming into the time of autumn right now. I can look out my window and the leaves are beginning to change colors. And let me tell you, North Carolina, where I live in the mountains of North Carolina, when the trees change colors, is breathtaking.
It's beautiful.
It's literally breathtaking. And you can begin to stare at the trees and see and look at the beauty of the tree and forget the one who created it. And here's the point. The next thing that happens after the beauty of the leaves is barrenness.
Mm-hmm.
When we get our eyes on trees, we set ourselves up for barrenness.
Mike, there is another little thought here I'll throw in. During the summertime, trees provide shade. It can be dramatically cooler under the shade of a tree than standing in the sunlight.
Oh, yeah.
And Yochanan, John 3, verse 19, this is the judgment that the light has come into the world, and men love the darkness rather than the light, for their works were wicked. For everyone who is practicing evil matters hates the light and does not come to light, lest his works should be exposed. But the one doing the truth comes to the light, so his works are clearly seen that they have been wrought in Elohim. Have a tree in the courtyard of the Most High is to be shaded from his light. I don't want to be seen. Yah brings us to his presence to allow his light to thoroughly expose and shine and illuminate us. We can see what's righteous. We can see what's unrighteous. You can clean a house and think you got, I've dusted, I've vacuumed, I've Swiffered, I've done all of the things, and then you open the front door and the sunlight comes in and you see all the stuff that's still floating around in the air,
Yeah.
and you want to pull your hair out. I just cleaned. How can that be in it? But it's it's one thing to clean the surfaces, it's another thing to clean the air. When you stand before Yah, it's one thing to clean the surface,
Yeah.
but to get down where the air is at, there is another matter altogether. Um, but obviously, in Devarim here, it's talking about the Asherah poles, the pillars,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of teaching that's not really family friendly about that. It's the obelisk that is erected in Washington D.C., the Washington Monument, the one in Vatican's circle there in Rome or the Vatican area.
Yeah.
These
And on every street corner that there stands a church.
um, there's a variety of places where men have established and planted these monuments to someone's great achievement, and they are a very offensive. When you get to the root of it and understand what's been presented,
Oh yeah.
it's vulgar, it's offensive. And when Yah is looking at the earth and that's what he is seeing, it's a very in your face effort of man to promote his ideology and religion, if you will. Um, there are those that will equate it to a steeple on a building. I offered that to some pastors one time. It didn't go over well, and I said, "We think we sanctify it by putting a cross on the top of it. What are we doing? What are you thinking?"
Yeah.
Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
there is an exaltation of self is a part of this. The exaltation of idols is a part of this. Competition for his identity is a part of this. When you melt all of that down and then you go into present day presentations of worship and of congregational aspects, I understand lighting. I understand the desire to have the best sound. It irks me to no end. It just drives me nuts when I'm in a place and the sound's not right.
Oh yeah.
The mix is not right.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to go somewhere and enter into worship, not because I'm not leading it, because my brain is so diagnosing of the sound and the presentation. I'm hearing every wrong note on stage played or sung. I'm seeing how things are done, and I cringe at times. Other times, it's like these guys are good. They are
Hmm.
rehearsed. They are smooth. They are focused. They are in tune with the spirit. This is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, because it's excellent, and that's the thing.
Striving
We
for
should
excellence
have.
is not a problem. Glorifying of flesh, personality, humanity, and the face of him who is to be exalted.
Hmm.
That's where, and it's a line that is not easily drawn. I don't want to criticize someone that is making their best effort to lead people into his presence. It's a hard job, Mike, because the
Yeah.
role of man's heart does not want to go there. We
So
feign it.
so we've got maybe another verse that goes along with this is right after that in chapter 17 is not to sacrifice a sheep or a cow that has a defect. So here's the two places that we're discussing. One is a haphazard manner, not doing things in an excellent way.
Yeah.
Years ago, Kathy's father used to work with the tape ministry at their church. And he would, of course, send these cassette tapes to us. Uh, I I was not in the mental or spiritual place to listen to them to begin with, but there was another problem. I actually put a couple of them in the cassette player. The sound quality was so bad, that I couldn't stand it. I would cringe. The last thing that you want to hear is a choir that is off key, recorded on a cassette tape through one external microphone. It's just, and I said when I started pastoring and we started recording our services, I will have something that's of quality. And I will not put out something that does not have quality. But at the same time, if you take that excellence, then it'll make it about yourself. I wanted something in my my backdrop here when we started doing the podcast. I wanted to upgrade that, and so I put a little bit into it. I have probably the least expensive studio in the world that I'm using. I did not go out and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or tens of thousands of dollars. I didn't even spend $1,000. I didn't even spend half of $1,000. But I wanted something of excellence. I wanted something that looked good, but was not, wow, isn't that amazing? And this is the place we find ourselves in sometimes, is in this trap between, excellence and making it about ourselves.
So our effort is to honor and glorify Him, not to glorify and honor our effort.
I like that. I could steal that. Probably will. Could you say it again so I got it in my head?
Our effort is to honor and glorify Him, not to honor and glorify our effort.
Okay.
So do your best. Rehearse, study, pray, prepare. Be a servant. Give it. If you need a light to begin to some lighting to help people to focus, I get that. Because people's minds are all over the place. Lighting can go a long ways to help that. A good sound system goes a long ways to allowing people to hear you and understand what you're trying to communicate. Do you need a PowerPoint? Do you need some visuals? And it helps to get people to understand what's being said. I don't have a problem with that. But the presentation is not what you're leading people to. It's the one you're presenting.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
Well said.
That's the goal.
Well said. Yeah. Well said. It's make sure that we're leading we're leading people to the presenter, which is the presenter of life, Him. Yeah, I got that.
The one last thing out there. If I can't worship Him with an acoustic guitar here at the house, just me and a guitar, or just me standing and singing.
Yeah.
My dad, of his blessed memory, Mama said he would sit out on the front porch on his little swing thing.
Yeah.
And he would make up songs and sing. And she would wonder, what in the world is he singing? She said he was singing part of one song and part of another song and then make up some other songs. But he would sit there and just worship and sing. Now, Dad didn't call himself a great singer. He could carry a tune, but it was in his heart.
Yeah.
Now, he could worship with the crowd, or he could worship all by himself.
Yeah.
Because the one that he was worshiping was the one he worshiped, whether it was with others or alone. So, if you're going to be a worshiper, you won't need a choir or band or atmosphere. You just need an awareness of who He is, and that's all you need.
Yeah. Let your worship come out of privacy. Take the private worship into public worship.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Thank y'all for joining us. Pray for Mike. Pray hard. got some traveling and some golfing and some fellowshipping and teaching to do. Needs to be at his best.